Hello, everyone, and welcome to a Mulberry Leadership Conversation. My name is Kelsey Daly, and I am the Senior Marketing and Events Specialist here at Mulberry. So a little bit about Mulberry. We are a full-service recruiting agency serving the Pacific Northwest and the San Francisco Bay Area. Our specialty areas include human resources, administrative office, finance, accounting, payroll, and operations. Check out our website at mulberrytalent.com to see previously recorded Mulberry Conversations and to view our full suite of service offerings and current job opportunities. So let's dive in. Today we are joined by our founder, Lauren Francis, and Lacey Partipilo of Xenium HR. As Senior Director of Client Success, Lacey oversees and manages relationships with Xenium's clients, understanding their unique needs and business challenges and ensuring they have the right teams in place to meet their goals. A dedicated and deeply experienced HR and client service professional, Lacey has been with the Stoller Group of companies since 2006 and transitioned to Xenium in 2009. With over 15 years of recruiting, human resource management, and client service experience, Lacey has a deep understanding of the HR space. She's known for her ability to build meaningful relationships with her clients and translate their goals into a clear path forward that affects change with their organization. So we're so excited to have Lacey join us today. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce Lacey and Lauren.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're so happy to have Lacey with us. This is great. We have a wonderful connection with Xenium, and it's just been really great for both our companies. Lacey and the team know a lot of us, and we know a lot of them, and so it's been wonderful. And so we're really happy to have you. I remember when I first heard you speak, Lacey, was during COVID, and I can't remember what the topic was, but I was like, wow. You know your stuff and you deliver it so beautifully. And I learned so much from that seminar. So anyway, we're really happy to have you on today. And we're talking about today, we participated in the survey that you are going to be talking about.
Our new survey for 2023 is actually open right now for people to register. And folks that are attending today will get a little screenshot at the end that they can scan the little QR code to register for their organization if they want to.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for making that available to everyone.
Yeah.
So we will pass it off to you and let you get started.
Okay. Can you see my screen here, Lauren?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks for that wonderful introduction. I'm really happy to be here with Mulberry. And Xenium is an outsourced HR and payroll firm, also boutique, located here in Portland. And we work with about 400 different companies at this time and provide HR and payroll services to those clients. And we also do a lot of training. So happy to be here to talk about our What People Want from Work survey. So we created this survey back in 2016. We had participated in another local survey for many years and really just thought we want to create a more customized survey for our clients, and our business partners work directly with the clients when they get those results to build HR infrastructure and policies and procedures. So it's really valuable feedback, and it helps employers to identify their employer value proposition. So creating those strategies that will help improve the workplace and really make it a place where people want to come to work and where people stay. So we have about 7 years of data. And so we're able to see some trends. And so we're going to look today at the trends that we got from our survey last year. And then, like I said, everyone will have the opportunity to participate in the 2023 survey. If you'd like to do that, it's free, there's no cost, and you get the results for your organization, which, like I said, really valuable information. So here's some stats around the survey from last year. We had 93 different organizations participate, which is more than twice what we had in 2021. So we've seen an uptick. We're hoping to see an increase in the survey participants for this year too. The more data we get, the better the survey results are. About 1,400 employees participated, and 66% of those employees were non-supervisory, and 23% of those employees identified as BIPOC. So we're able to track statistics too, because there's some demographic questions that employees answer when they take this survey. So the big question that we're asking in this survey is the employee net promoter score. So we're really asking employees, how likely are you to recommend your workplace as a good place to work? And we ask employees to rate that on a star scale, if you will, 1 to 4 stars. And last year's results, the overall population came in at 3.46, which is actually up from last year. Our overall average is 3.3. Last year was 3.41. So we really want our employees being out there and being the ones that are referring folks into the organization. And so if they're out there promoting your organization as a great place to work, helps with recruiting, obviously helps with retention. So we really want people to give our organizations a 4-star rating. That's what every organization is striving for. So 3.46 is great. And we're looking forward to seeing what this year's results look like.
That was so interesting. I'll interrupt for just 1 second.
Sure.
because the Great Resignation was last year with so you will see the results of the Great Resignation year.
We will. And it's funny, we're seeing things flatten out. So in
Right.
terms of that talent crunch that people have been in and the people leaving for 20, 30% more in terms of salary for new positions, that has felt a little bit of a softening for
Right.
the clients that we're working with. And does that mean that people are happier at their organizations? Maybe. I think what's happening with the economy might have something to do with it too. Folks might be afraid to take a chance on a new position and want to stay where it's familiar and where it's stable. But yeah, I think we're coming off of the tail end of that Great Resignation.
Exactly.
So the first section that we look at in our survey is really the workplace rating compared to the level of importance. So that first column that you see there where it says population, that's the rating that folks give in terms of how do I feel about my company's leadership? How do I feel about the collaboration within the organization? How do I feel about my compensation? And then we're also asking folks to rate how important is that? So if somebody gives something a low rating, but it's not very important, that's not maybe something that we want to pay the closest attention to. But when we look at things like this compensation score, 3.44 is a low rating, the lowest rating that folks gave. And you can see the level of importance is dramatically higher than the rating that the employees gave. That helps an employer to understand what's the priority of those employees. And compensation oftentimes shows up on these types of surveys. But what we know is that behind the employee's desire for having a higher compensation is that people just want to feel valued. They want to feel appreciated. They want to know that they're not being taken advantage of. And so compensation is just one piece of that an employer needs to pay attention to. And we break out the benefits and perks separate from that. Some surveys combine the two, but we find that one organization may have great benefits and perks. You can see here the average is much higher for that than it is for compensation. So we look at the top motivating factors. So what do people prioritize the most? And, what we're noticing in the survey results, and this is pretty consistent actually year over year, is compensation, including benefits, is really motivating. Flexibility and positive relationships. The value of certain jobs has significantly increased. Job changers have seen really high increases in wages. So people switch jobs, the likelihood of you getting a pay increase is pretty high these days. So we actually looked at the federal wage growth tracker. And last year, if folks were leaving jobs, they were looking at least a 7.3% pay increase. And what we know is that most organizations are not budgeting for 7% pay increases for their existing employees. So typically what we're seeing right now, and I think the trends that we're hearing from the world at work, is usually between 4 and 5%. So much lower than what folks might get if they switch jobs.
And we have a question that came in. Somebody said, is the scale 1 to 5, do you anticipate the top motivating factors changing for this year's survey?
It's a good question. I know that compensation is going to be at the top, probably, if not just at least in the top 3. That rating for top motivating factors was a 1 to 5 scale, different than the 4-star rating on whether you would refer people to come work at the organization. I know flexibility will be in there. I think the impact of leadership is something that we're hearing come up a lot. So people really want to know that they're working for strong leaders and to feel supported by leadership teams. Leadership may show up in here. I know flexibility will be close to the top. So some additional motivating factors. This is just the number of votes that we got in the survey last year. So making a difference, quite a few votes for that. Interesting work, having autonomy. I think that kind of goes hand in hand with that flexibility. And then personal development and growth, which is going to become more and more important the more Gen Z employees we have within our organization. So as the generations shift within an organization, I think we're going to see the needs and maybe some of these things showing up more. What we hear, and these are, I don't want to make generalizations, but Gen Z really wants that personal development and growth. They want to know that the work that they're doing is contributing to a higher difference. So making a difference, I think, will be something that folks are really paying attention to. So as you're thinking about your leadership your HR practices that you have within your organization. We want to make sure that we're communicating the impact that people make on the business, helping people to understand what their unique strengths are, I think is really important. Do employees know that we trust them? Do we let them take ownership? Do they have the ability to really make decisions within the organization that matter? Those are questions that we should be asking and that leaders should be asking. And if the answer to those questions is no, there's an opportunity there to take a look at what would it take to create an environment where people are recognized and valued and they really understand how the work that they're doing every day is contributing to the bigger picture for the organization. So when we ask employees, what's the top reason that you'd give for staying at your current job? We had over 1,000 responses here to this question. And so we've summarized what the top 5 themes were. So having a positive work environment and a team dynamic, like you want to like the people that you work with and make sure that it doesn't feel toxic, that it feels good to come to work. Flexible work arrangements. So whether that is remote work, hybrid work, having some type of flex schedule, compressed work weeks, you can get really creative, but people want to know that we're valuing them as a whole person and the fact that they've got other stuff going on outside of work. Mm-hmm. That there's alignment with the company mission and values. Is the organization walking the talk? Opportunities for learning and professional development, and then autonomy and trust. So across the board, through all those comments, those are really the top themes for why people are staying at their current organization. Now, what is something that an employer could do to make it better? Improved pay and benefits. So most people are not staying at their current organization because of their pay, and that could be something that maybe attracts them to leave an organization. And with more and more organizations posting pay ranges within positions, we know in recruiting, Lauren, you get better response to ads when you're doing that. And with pay transparency requirements in many states, we're required to post it. Folks are seeing what's out there and thinking, gosh, that's the same job title that I'm in right now. And we're talking about a $20,000 a year pay difference. I might be interested. So that's an opportunity for employers to think about that. If they had better communication and support from management, that's where I said leadership is going to really matter in the coming year. If there's opportunities for advancement and training. So if those went away or they didn't exist at all, that might be something that had somebody thinking, gosh, I might think the grass is greener somewhere else. Flexibility in work arrangements, and then more effective and efficient processes and systems within the company. We're actually talking about this one a lot here at Xenium, where how do we make the jobs easier for employees? How do we create more efficient practices so that our client experience is better, our employee experience is better? So sometimes it's really looking at internal infrastructure, and it's not a pay increase. It's something that's more related to their actual day-to-day job that might make the employee a little bit more satisfied in their work.
You know, when a coach that came on a couple of weeks ago was talking about the communication piece and how important that is, and how important it is to interact with your direct reports or the people that are within your team on an ongoing basis. And even if it could take just a couple of minutes, tell me, how was your day?
Yes.
What do you need? And is there anything I could be doing differently to help you? Are there any challenges you're facing? And it's not, we have to schedule a meeting and sit down. It doesn't have to be that hard and make it so complex. Mm-hmm. And so it's that access to your leader, and to have that, being able to know that it's like the idea of an annual performance evaluation. Who does that anymore?
Yeah.
And I know it still happens, but it's just, it's so out, it doesn't really, it's not helpful in the end. And so it's having that, and it just she said, it just take a couple of minutes. And because people always think, I don't have any time.
Right.
The leader, often they say, I don't have time to do all that. If you change the way you think about it, it could be really impactful and very interactive.
Yeah. And we're seeing like less formal and more frequent touch bases make a difference. And you make time for what's important. So good leaders know that this matters, and they have the loyal employees. People that don't prioritize that, you're going to see that in turnover within those departments, and just employee satisfaction, complaints, making formal complaints it starts at the top.
And small things can stay small.
Yes.
As opposed to growing and so on.
So true.
It does make a difference.
Yeah.
And we had a question come in. What are some unique flexibility options you have seen employers implement?
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about this right now. The interesting work week, like creating flexible schedules. I think people often correlate that to we're gonna do 4-day work weeks. That was buzzing around and people were talking about that a lot. But trying to create options for employees that meet their needs. And that 4-day work week might not work for everyone. I think what's important is to understand what are the priorities of the organization. And we have to evaluate those things. And then coming up with a plan that might work for some departments, for some employees. I've seen people look at half-day Fridays. I've seen people do 1 day off a month that's in addition to your PTO, that's just a flex personal day. I've seen people get creative with scheduling. So I have actually a manufacturing client that they have some flexibility in terms of how they schedule their day swing and grave shifts. So rather than the traditional 7 to 3, 3 to midnight to 7 type of schedule, they may have somebody working 9 to 5 out on the shop floor, or someone working an 11 to 7. So they've been able to figure out a way to find coverage that works. Having flexible PTO, I think, or a robust PTO plan speaks to that flexibility. So you want to make taking time off easy and accessible, and not where people have to be put through the ringer to attend to things that they need to outside of work. It's not a one size fits all. I think it needs to be an approach that works for each individual organization and department within.
Right. And there's a lot of great ideas out there that are fun and can make a big impact. Last year we had such a busy couple of weeks, and we just decided, okay, we're going to have a pop-up day off. And so we gave everybody a 3-day weekend. Just fun. And it was just like, now not all organizations can do that, but it worked for us. And I just think it was such a pleasant gift. And it was really speaking to, you guys are doing a lot of great work, and it's been a really tough couple of weeks. Let's take some time with our family.
During the summer months, Xenium does 1 half-day Friday a month during the summer. So it's like the sun is out, get off at noon, go do something fun, tack it on to some PTO if you want. A lot of people do that. Yeah. But just that half day to just do what you want during those 3 months makes a difference. Everybody looks forward to it.
I'm sure they do.
And it's become a staple.
That's great. Good for you guys.
I just wanted to share some data out there from other surveys. Xenium actually participates in some of Mercer's surveys. They do a lot of really good research. And one of their surveys, the Inside Employees' Minds report last year, shared what the top 3 factors that would cause employees to consider leaving their employer. They actually surveyed, I think it was over 4,000 full-time employees, and the organizations were large. So they were working within organizations that had more than 250 people. But I think this is interesting, and it's similar to what we're talking about here. So pay matters, burnout due to a demanding workload. Many of us in HR really are still feeling the tail of COVID and what it was like to work through that, the hours that we were working, the compassion fatigue that many of us experienced. It was a lot. It's not just HR that was experiencing that burnout, but many employees experiencing that. And then not having great healthcare benefits. We think about financial health being the greatest thing that we need to focus on, but mental health and burnout are still really big top concerns for employees. When you're thinking about what can we do to address these things, reducing workload, finding those efficiencies, finding processes within your organization that will make people's jobs easier, making sure that folks have access to good mental health care within your benefit plan, sometimes adding an employee assistance program onto that makes a difference. And what's nice about those is that dependents can have access to them most of the time, and they offer things just even outside of the traditional counseling services. So if somebody's dealing with a aging parent, that's a lot of stress, and we know we don't leave that stuff at the door. We bring that fatigue and that stress into work, and it impacts our performance. So we want to be thinking of ways that we as an employer can add to the employee's toolbox to be able to deal with those things.
We had a question come in from Kirsten Managello. Hello. I'm seeing there's a continuing tension between what employees want, more flexibility and hybrid work option, and what employers want, more are requiring back to office / in-person. How are you seeing that play out in terms of employee retention?
Yeah, I think it's felt like it's flattened out. And I would say around this time last year is when many employers were like, writing up the policies, come back to work. We need people in their seats because we didn't learn from the last year and a half that it actually worked for you to work from home. We think you'll be more productive here. So I think last year is when we saw the big fallout in terms of the turnover from those policies. I think now what's happening is folks that appeased their employer that maybe did come in on that hybrid schedule, or maybe they were required to even come back fully in office. they're seeing jobs being posted as hybrid or remote. And I can tell you, I don't know what you guys are seeing, Lauren, but when we post jobs that have an option for remote, dramatically more applicants. If we post a job that is fully in person, sometimes none or very few applicants that are interested. And there's been surveys out there that show that actually the most happy employees are not the fully remote employees. It's the employees that are working that hybrid schedule, that have some of that flexibility to be home, but also can find ways to personally connect with their coworkers in the office. Good question. So how do you use all of this data? What do we do with this? I think the place to start is really thinking about your individual employer value proposition. Same as you do with your customers, right? We're thinking about, why do our customers buy? Why are our employees still here? Thinking about these key differentiators can give us an edge over our competitors. Knowing the top reasons that people join the company, why they stay with the organization by doing a survey like this or other employee satisfaction surveys is important, because as your demographics within your organization change, their needs may change. So we always want to be thinking about those things as we're building out our policies, our benefits, and the procedures that we have. I think assessing the retention risk is important too. It's not possible to eliminate every weakness you have within your organization. Maybe you have some positions that just can't offer a compressed work week, or you couldn't do remote work. We need to focus on really what are our highest risk areas and focus on that in terms of retaining our talent. So supervisors are like the key to this. So when supervisors are focused on building relationships with their employees, and they can do that, as Lauren said, like in the drive-by, how's it going conversation, the quick Teams message or message in Slack, or the regular one-on-ones. If we're asking really important questions like the ones here that I'm sharing, I think we can have a really robust conversation between a supervisor and an employee and really understand what are the barriers to the employee being satisfied or productive. And even implementing one question a month, like the HR team sending out one question to all the supervisors. This is what I want you guys to explore in your one-on-ones for this month. Knowing that some employees have a hard time being put on the spot, we've even implemented here at Xenium, sending these questions out in advance so that folks have time to think about it, ponder the question, and come prepared to the conversation. So if you're really focused on retention and making sure that folks are happy within your organization, I think it does require asking the tough questions and being prepared to hear something that maybe you don't want to hear. Doesn't mean we have to act on it, just like every survey. We're not going to solve every employee's problem and address every request, but getting the data is really the first place to start in building a plan to increase retention for employees. Xenium's calling this the year of the individual because every individual employee's needs is so different. And your leadership team really has to do the work of discovering what are the organization's needs and the employees' needs so that we know exactly how to motivate them. I think when we're able to do this, I think we're better able as leaders to explore options. Really, the key is being flexible, adaptable. One single strategy or solution is not going to work. I think it takes trying things, pivoting, if it's not working, getting feedback, adjusting, owning up to when we decided to do something and it didn't work. I think that makes a difference when we can take ownership for our own failures as leaders, keeping in that regular dialogue with employees and just prioritizing one thing at a time, I think makes a big difference. So I've included the code here that you can scan. If you'd like to download the full survey from last year, you can see that there. And then on our website, you are able to register for our 2023 survey. Like I said, you'll get your individual survey for your results for your organization, and then you're able to see how that compares to the aggregate. So some resources there. We've got a really awesome podcast that our marketing director, Brandon Laws, hosts, and we've got great speakers on there. So some additional content and information for those of you that are interested in more from Xenium.
This is such great information. I am so glad that you've been doing that. It must be great to just capture all this information, and also for so many years. It would be so interesting to see what the 2016 survey was all about.
I know. Yeah. And even like thinking about 10 years from now, what's it going to be like? What we didn't predict that COVID was going to hit. That definitely had an impact and really spiked that flexible work arrangement need from employees up. Had that not happened, I don't know if we would be looking at the same kind of data, but you never know what's going to happen and what that'll do to what we're seeing in the data.
COVID was definitely hard, but it really brought out some great changes in the workplace. And
Yeah.
we've seen those changes make a big difference. Good.
Some little blessings from it.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Lacey and Lauren. This was amazing.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. If you have any questions, you can reach out anytime.